One of the most uncertain and hardest hit sectors in Canada includes hotel and tourism in light of COVID-19. It makes it even more important for new immigrants to be connected to employers across the country, especially where talent is short. Joining me to talk about this is Philip Mondor, President and CEO of Tourism HR Canada. Thank you, Philip, for being here with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So let's talk about this program made specifically for newcomers who want to enter hotel and tourism. What is it and who exactly does it support?
Okay, Destination Employment is the name we have on this program. It's a national program available to all newcomers basically, and the main aim of the project is to help prepare people for employment in the hotel sector and really in any type of job that they might be fit for. So the hotel environment does offer a lot of different opportunities. So the program is designed to be tailored to every person. So what we do is we first identify their needs and their kind of experience, and then we design unique plans around them and help prepare them for employment, then connect them with employment opportunities.
And is a specific level of education or career history defined or pretty loose?
It is loose. It's intentionally loose because the types of job offers are highly variable. So our interest is more about finding the right fit for persons. So we look at their language skills, their prior experience, their education and their training, and we look for the right kind of match and then give them the training to match that, and potentially while they're in the program, even to move beyond some of the skills that they came in with.
Let's highlight some skills that you can actually get from the program off the top of your head and how perhaps it's transferable to other industries as well.
I'm glad you asked the question because it's a very important one. The main aim of the project was to make sure that there was a particular set of transferable skills. It's something that employers put a high demand on, and it's something the industry also values greatly. So the program covers off a whole battery of transferable skills and then enables people to also focus on very specific what we would call technical skills in any kind of the fields they may want to go into. So in terms of transferable skills, there are some of the obvious things like the right kind of communication skills, but thinking of COVID, by the way, things around resilience, learning how to deal with stress, understanding your rights in the workplace, those kinds of things. When you look at the technical side, they could be streaming into cooking skills or to front office skills or to any other sort of category that might be suited for them.
And we want to talk about the program and how it's also changed in light of COVID-19. How has it changed?
Well, in a way the program, we were lucky in the sense that the program was always designed to be fairly responsive and flexible to each of the participants in the program. And as such, we're still able to tailor these very specific work plans or learning plans to each person. But most of the delivery now is moved to online. And luckily, we had a lot of online programming available. So it was really about realigning some of the program delivery with a lot of the online programs that were available. And Olu was telling me, the project manager, that one of the bonuses that we've noticed from that is that people have seen greater flexibility and we've had bigger reach because of the accessibility of that. In a way, it's become a little more convenient for newcomers, especially when they have other responsibilities at home. So we've seen actually a growth in the program and a demand for the online delivery. So that's been a good thing.
Wow, that's a really good insight that I didn't think about. So
neither did I. And there's still some blended learning environments as well, which is also based on demand. So what we've done in those cases is what you would expect, I guess, in a COVID environment. The cohorts are much smaller. The whole environment for the learning has been changed or retrofitted in order to fit the physical distancing requirements and so on. So that is also happening in certain places where the demand exists.
And I know mentorship is and was a big part of the program. Yeah. How is that still honored, obviously, with physical and social distancing?
Again, one of the interesting things about that, I was curious about this myself, but one of the interesting things I learned about that is that, in a way, it's not very different than before because a lot of the mentoring was done, well, you could say in a virtual way. I mean, it wasn't always direct, hands-on kind of mentoring. So those relationships are built early in the program. They're maintained. The virtual aspect of it doesn't really fundamentally change the nature of some of that mentoring. And indeed, there's still some mentoring in those live environments as well. So in some ways, I would say there's not really a very big change there. There's maybe more tools to support it, but the level of contact time maybe has even increased subsequently because of it.
What opportunities are actually available for newcomers, but also Canadians as a whole?
There's a few things happening here. First of all, at this moment, there's a lot of jobs that have been displaced. So there's no question that hotels are operating at a much lower capacity than before because there's borders closed, and those things won't come back or recover for a while. At the same time, what's interesting is that there's still a demand to look for workers. We just finished a survey, a pan-Canadian survey with employers, and nearly half of them were saying they had trouble finding workers for this summer. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, and if you think about it, it's actually fairly obvious in a sense. So it's because of COVID. You've got people that are in high-risk categories that can no longer go to work, or they're living with someone where they're a caregiver, or they have someone at risk in their own home environment, so they can't necessarily take that risk. You've got situations where there isn't childcare available, so unless someone else is available to do that, they can't necessarily do their job. So we've identified actually 12 different reasons why people may not be returning to work. Some of them are also not feeling comfortable with the safety of it. Some are decided to retire because they were planning to anyway. So there are multiple factors, and subsequently, that means there are opportunities. And then the second part of that question, I guess I would say, is in terms of the hotel environment, the reason we selected it at all for this program is because it has a very diverse range of job offers, everything from housekeeping through front office, culinary, there's groundskeeping jobs, and so on, even entrepreneurial pursuits. So in that sense, there's lots of different opportunities that still exist. I think the challenge moving forward is still going to be about regional differences that exist on this front and rural issues that may have come up. But we're not unique to any other sector in that sense. So we're looking at different ways to help better elevate information about what's available, helping people prepare for roles that they may not have been thinking about, because that's what's available. And I think this idea of recovery is going to be probably a 1 to 2 year horizon. So the skills that people accumulate over that time will give them further opportunities. So we're thinking both in terms of jobs, but also of continued skill development over that period, so that it gives more flexibility down the road in terms of other options.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to recognize that it will be a slow recovery. From your perspective, and as someone who's a part of the national conversation, labor market in general, what do you think we should expect post-pandemic for the hotel and tourism industry in Canada?
When we look at the national associations and some of the groups that focus on this question of recovery and the different policies and programs in place, it's clear to us that the recovery will be slow and be slower than most other industries because we rely on visitor trade, most of which was coming from the US as our primary market. So those borders are not going to open quickly. And as a result, that means that we're going to see a very gradual, slow return. Part of the reason for that as well is that these tourism industries and these destinations are also having to rethink who their markets are, start to appeal to different markets. So there's a whole recalibration happening in terms of what product and service they have, but also investments in infrastructure and other matters to accommodate these changes. In terms of COVID, like some of the investments being made in rural communities have to do with health care systems. Right now, they may not let visitors in, at least not at a high capacity, because they're worried about the ability to manage an issue should it arise. So until we see some of those investments, until we see some readjusted changes, it's not going to recover quickly. At the same time, I'm going to add that tourism has always been one of the main economic drivers for rural Canada. That's a large portion of Canada. About 60% of our workforce is there. And it's been a job generator, but it's been kind of the anchored economic engines in those communities. So part of the recovery model we believe that governments will want to invest in is going to be continuing to invest in this sector, because effectively it's part of community development. It's really going to be part of the impetus for helping drive the economies in most of these regions. We're not sure what the answers are on all of these things, but there are different models being tested, different ideas being tried, and we'll see where it goes. At the same time, there's a big will, there's a big level of effort by particularly the national groups looking at different ways to support the businesses and trying to do these things.
Right. Well, it's great to see your leadership here. So thank you so much for highlighting it for us here on New Canadians.
It's always a pleasure. It's always great talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.